Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Part of the Narrative. It's me, your girl Mara, the marvelous, the miraculous, the magnificent. I got it right. I'm on a roll today, y'all. Welcome to my show. To those who are new, and welcome back to those who are awesome. What am I missing? Oh, my show is crazy and chaotic because I am crazy and chaotic, and we're all just learning to live with that. So we're doing short intros, but I wanted to take a second. I'm experimenting with this new form of recording. That's what we're doing. I have a short attention span, and you guys watch stuff to watch me watch stuff. Wait, what? What? You guys click on my video to watch me watch a video, right? I have to pay attention to the video. So in order to do that, I have to do something with my hands. I also plan to be doing a lot of crafts, so why not combine the two? So I am trying to do a reaction video and a craft video at the same time. Oh my gosh, I broke a nail. That's tragic. Ew, my nails are gross. I can't believe I'm about to show y'all my hands and my nails look gross. Ugh. It's okay. Don't pay me any attention. It's my show. And I'm telling you guys don't pay attention to me on my show. Oh my goodness. I said I'm crazy, right? Okay. So, we are going to transition this bitch. Hey. There we go. So, this is my workspace. These are my hands. And we are going to be watching one of my favorite channels. So this is Scared to Death. I got introduced to this by somebody at work, and they tell scary stories, and I have always adored them. They talk a lot in the beginning. Their intros are long. So we are going to watch one of their videos, and I'm just going to skip straight ahead to the story. So this is City of the Dead. I'll let them introduce themselves, but yeah, I won't let them do their whole spiel because they talk for a long time, and I love them. Dan, Lindsay, I love you guys. You're coming to St. Louis. I'm excited, but I'm broke, so I can't afford it. I'm sorry. I gotta remember, look at the camera. I moved my camera too. You guys are over here. Used to be over there, and now you're over here. All right. Can y'all hear it? Oh. It got mad at me.
Or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied.
Mic check.
Whatever thou be, until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house.
Oh, I love their show so much. I'm so excited. Okay.
We are protected, though we may be frightened.
Get my vape pen off of here.
Though we may be scared to death.
Hold on just 1 second, y'all. Just hold on a second. All right, let's go. Sorry about that, y'all. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing macrame for the first time. Literally for the first time. All I've done is just unwrap some of the string. So we're just getting crafty today, y'all. This is such a mess. I probably should have practiced before I just decided to record my hands.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Hello, Dan. I'm Lindsay.
You're Lindsay, and I have two long horror stories that I'm very excited about.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting creeped out last night. I am ready, but I know that before we get into that, we do have, bear with us, Creeps and Peepers. We have a couple more announcements.
But it's an announcement you've heard before.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
summer camp.
Yes.
We're gonna skip ahead.
That's the headline. In case you're fast forwarding.
Yeah.
That's the headline. Okay, summer camp. Okay, by the time you guys
9 people crammed into just 1/4.
Wait, Scooch.
And so I searched for a juicy horror tale set there, found one that Also, a pretty accurate DJ Honey tea is available. You'll find the coffee mugs we keep in the station break room. Head on over to badmagicmerch.com and check it all out.
All right.
I usually try to look at the merch
Where are my
before
skizzers?
the show,
Up
and,
now, a little Nora Jones. Sorry.
and I did not look, and so that really caught me off guard. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right.
So now, back to what we normally do here.
Yeah. Okay, just 5 minutes of
I
announcements.
really have
it's
no
fine.
clue
You know
what I'm doing now.
It's 5 minutes, but then you get to. There's more than
Okay.
an extra 5 minutes of horror this week.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for making up for that in the end.
Yeah. What fan submitted horror do you have?
Okay,
Lindsay
actually,
Lou Who?
I am also very excited about my stories. I found a new thing to be afraid of.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm super
This far
excited. Yes, the Pitchel Parry. It's a Pakistani something or another.
Okay.
It's a
I
good
know
like.
that one.
Well, this story comes from Pakistan. The folklore comes from Asia, South Asia. So it sounds like it's in a variety of places, a variety of different cultures, but a weird something I'd never heard of.
Okay.
So we'll leave it there. And then my
Getting
second
caught
story,
on shit?
maybe not initially a story that really grabs you as spooky.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the end, you are left wondering how it is we're all connected through spirits. I promise you it will make sense.
Cool.
It's a very cool story. Ichiwawa by the end.
All right. I like it.
I like it too.
I have two big stories today. A lot of horror. Heading back to Japan for the first one. I became fascinated with Hashima Island, this crazy, very urban-looking ghost town.
I heard you showing Kyler last night.
Yeah, ghost city, really. It's like a ghost town. Very unique place. And I thought, when I came across it, like, this place has to be haunted. And so I searched for a juicy horror tale set there, found one that I'm very excited to share. This one had me all twitchy last night when I was kind of shaping it up. I kept thinking I was seeing movement
I don't know
in
if I
my
did this
peripheral
right.
vision in the living room.
Well?
Like some body moving around or something. I kept seeing, I thought I
hell
saw
no.
reflections in the window of something around the living room. Maybe the dogs, maybe ghosts.
No, the dogs were in bed with me.
Well, no, Penny was up with me for a little while. She stayed up with Dad to help on some horror stories because I walked down with her when I went to bed. She came back up.
Oh, after I fell asleep, she must have come up.
And then we're going to stay in Asia, but travel all the way to Afghanistan
Guys,
to
I
cover
have no
a
clue what I'm
collection
doing.
of supposed sightings from some U.S. Marines there. Very intense sightings, all taking place at a location once known as Observation Post Rock, a.k.a. The Rock. I think from top to bottom, I'm bringing some of the best supposedly true horror I've brought in a while. I'm going to say
Okay.
that.
That's a bold statement.
Yep. Plenty of time to get all cozied up with your socks while we settle into this first story.
First, blue pants. Second, I'm double socking. I know that drives you guys crazy, but my feet are freezing.
Funny.
Llama,
Nice.
llama, mad at mama.
Oh, those are nice socks.
So let me set up some history.
She has the
Okay,
best
let's
socks.
Hashima Island is a very small island, just 16 acres in total, just over 12 miles by boat from the city of Nagasaki, Japan. And it is one of the most surreal-looking islands, really places
Whoa.
on Earth.
If I done-
Hashima Island was, for a time before it was abandoned in 1974, the most densely populated place on Earth by a long ways. 5,259 people crammed into just 1/40th of 1 square mile. If you multiply that out, it would equal 210,360 people in a square mile, and that is 3 times as dense as the borough of Manhattan,
Holy crap.
the most urban of New York City's boroughs. Coal was discovered underneath the island, it's really underneath the sea, back in 1810, and a mine was completed in 1887 with various massive tunnels dug down under the ocean, once actually connecting to another tiny island nearby. In 1916, and they go down like a couple thousand feet. In 1916, Japan's first reinforced concrete building, a large one, 7-floor miners' apartment block, was built to accommodate more and more workers. Concrete was specifically used to protect against typhoon destruction. Over the next 55 years, more buildings were constructed, including massive apartment blocks, a school, kindergarten, hospital, town hall, community center. And building up was the only way to fit everyone. For entertainment, there was a clubhouse, a movie theater, communal bath, swimming pool, rooftop gardens, shops, even a small gambling hall, all built for miners and their families.
Okay, sounds fun.
Very surreal. The tiny island looked as if a small slice of a massive metropolis was cut out of maybe Tokyo or somewhere and dropped out into the sea.
I'm getting
And this
confused.
tiny
Yeah, it's
island
too much
has seen a
string.
lot of tragedy. Between 1930 and 1946,
Okay.
forced laborers from China and Korea were forced to work the mine, with up to 1,300 people dying in accidents,
Holy crap.
from disease, or from literally being worked to death. And then, due to petroleum replacing coal in Japan in the 1960s, Coal mines began to shut down across the country, and eventually Hashima's mines also shut
direction are
down.
they going?
And the Mitsubishi Corporation, who had owned the island
Mitsubishi.
since 1890, officially closed the mine in January of 1974. And then the island was cleared of all inhabitants by April 20th. And for years, the ghost island, none of the buildings were torn down. Most of the people's possessions, or a lot of the people's possessions, were just left there. It was off limits to anyone except government employees and Mitsubishi officials. And it's weird, there's like these videos of just so much stuff left. Clothes, shoes, TVs, dishes, just like they just got out really fast. In 2002, Mitsubishi transferred ownership of the island to the local city government of Nagasaki. Journalists were now able to legally explore the island, and then in 2009, the island was opened up to tourists. And now guides can take visitors to explore this strange, surreal ghost city. And numerous visitors and trespassing ghost hunters have not surprisingly been reporting encounters with the paranormal ever since, and maybe a little bit before based on our encounter tale today. It is said that many of the spirits of those who died working in the mines, particularly the spirits of forced laborers who were never given proper burials, still haunt the island. The following encounter comes from a pair of ghost hunters who claimed, based on their post, to have boated out to the island back in 2005 before it was opened to the public. And for over 18 hours, they would have the island completely to themselves, at least as far as the living are concerned. Time now for the tale of the City of the Dead. Cam and Craig, two brothers from Issaquah, a suburb of Seattle, were weeks away from finishing a 4-year contract teaching English as a second language in Nagasaki. They'd loved their time in Japan. Nagasaki was a small, beautiful city, is a small, beautiful city, very easy to navigate, and once they'd settled in, they'd taken day and weekend trips all over the country. And they'd also gotten hooked on Japanese horror movies and a culture more accepting of and curious about the spirit world than America. They became fascinated with Hashima Island. They'd floated past it on a boat tour about a year after moving to Japan, and when doing so, Cam was positive in the distance he saw someone in one of the windows of the old apartment buildings. He was so sure he'd seen someone, he asked the tour guide if they were sure that no one lived on the island anymore. The guide laughed, assured him that no one was living on the island. No one was visiting the island, or had been for many years. Ever since, Cam couldn't stop thinking about what he'd seen, though. His brother Craig tried to convince him that he must have seen a trespasser, and maybe he did. While he knew that was a more rational possibility, Cam nevertheless began to think that he might have actually seen a ghost.
Right.
And he felt a powerful urge to go back and explore the island and try and find it, or maybe see something else like it. But to do that, he'd have to trespass. And he wanted Craig to come with him, so
I'm
they
gonna go
both
with the
had to
half
trespass. At first, Craig was 100% opposed to doing that, but he did love an adventure. He didn't care as much about as his brother about trying to see a ghost. He was the more skeptical one. Horror movies were cool, but real? Maybe not. But he did think it would be super cool to check out the old massive buildings and explore one of the most surreal ghost towns on Earth. So he let Cam convince him to do this shortly before they were going to return back to the States, where they already had jobs lined up. They wouldn't get in that much trouble if they got caught, and in some extreme scenario, if they got stuck in jail for a few days or deported somehow, oh well, they were leaving anyway. So they rented a small boat for the weekend in Nagasaki Bay. The weather was good, the sea was calm, and they'd only have to travel less than 20 miles, all within sight of land, to make it from where they rented the boat to the island. They figured if they tied the boat off somewhere on the southwest side of the island, they should be out of sight of any tour boats, and since almost no one ever ventured onto the island, as long as they stayed out of sight of any tourists boating by, they should be able to sneak around without getting caught. So on a Saturday morning, away they went. By the time they approached Hashima Island, it was perfect. No one else was around, and they slowly putted over to the far side of the island. They had a lot more trouble than they'd anticipated finding a spot to safely tie their boat off. The entire backside was encased in a giant seawall. Almost the entire island was encircled in this seawall that gave the island the appearance of a battleship, hence the nickname Battleship Island. Luckily, thanks to some erosion, there was a spot where they were able to hook through some damage to the concrete wall and tie the boat off. And then, while they were nervous about any high waves battering the boat around a bit, they felt good enough to continue. They were a bit worried about the boat being seen when they finally found this place, but at least they'd made it. It was around noon on a Saturday by the time they were walking into the remains of the old city with their overnight packs after using some climbing gear that they had to, where they had to scale the seawall. They'd done enough homework to know that if they wanted to enter the island from the far side, they would basically have to do some extreme rock climbing. Other than a small slip that about gave Cam a heart attack, they climbed the wall pretty smoothly for two guys with very little experience doing that sort of thing.
Hell no.
Once up on the island, the feeling of being on an amazing adventure really started to sink in. Up until that
I don't
point,
like
they
climbing,
mostly just
y'all. I
felt
do not
anxious
like
about getting caught.
heights.
But now they'd done it. They figured they only had to worry about getting spotted until sundown. After that, what were the odds that someone would come looking for their boat? And then the next morning, they promised each other they'd take off shortly after sunrise. If they were going to see any ghosts or experience anything else paranormal on the island, it was going to be tonight or never. They decided to head inside to grab something to eat. They were starving. They didn't want to eat outside and risk being spotted by someone in a helicopter, plane, or passing ship, so they quickly walked towards the nearest building. While now you can actually get a tourist map of the island and know what buildings are what, back in 2005, no such map existed, at least not publicly. The building they walked over and into happened to be the old movie theater. It was perfect for lunch. Almost no windows, so they could blast light out of their electric lanterns, and creepy as hell. So much concrete. They were the first concrete buildings ever built in Japan, so old and crumbling for so many years now. There was rubble all around them on the island, mixed into patches of greenery where nature was reclaiming the old city with brush and grasses. There was rock outcroppings, so much concrete and rock. The little island was basically the tip of a small, rocky mountain rising up from the seafloor. The scenery did not remind Cam and Craig of any other place on Earth. And on top of everything they could see, there were all the old mining tunnels, reportedly going as deep as almost 2,000 feet below them. Miles of tunnels.
No.
What might be down there? Setting
None
up
of
in the
my
movie theater and
business.
eating lunch, Cam and Craig were surprised to find old snack containers, some unopened, old film posters, some employee clothing, even remnants of some old film, and everywhere flakes of eroding concrete, broken glass, scraps of other material. When the island was abandoned, they really exited quickly and left so much behind, it was weird. Also, thanks to the wind, there always seemed to be some sort of breeze on the island. There were so many unfamiliar noises. The brothers knew they were in for a long, unnerving night, with or without any paranormal activity. And after doing a bit of exploring following their lunch, the brothers now packed up their garbage, put it away in their backpacks. They promised not to add to the mess, and they wandered out of the old movie theater and into what they figured must have been part of an old hospital. Way creepier than the movie theater. There were still old surgical tools lying around, and charts and x-rays and smocks and more. Again, they just left so much behind. Cam and Craig talked about what kind of horrors the doctors and surgeons must have encountered on the island, considering that thousands of the island's residents worked in dangerous mines. Talking about how many people must have died while they were where they were exploring started to really get their imaginations going. Leaving the small medical building, they next checked out the old concrete swimming pool for a moment, but worried about being too exposed and being seen, they quickly headed towards the center of the island now, towards so many old and massive apartment buildings, so many stairs. If nothing else, they were really going to get a workout. Some of the apartments felt even eerier than the hospital. For one thing, there was the fear that at any moment, the roof might collapse, the edge of the building might crumble,
These
or the
crumbling
floor
ass
beneath you might give
buildings.
way. All scenarios that would likely lead to death.
Right?
What made the apartment spookier than the other locations, though, was even more stuff left behind in them. Clothes, televisions, dishes, so many other random possessions, including a lot of toys. What a strange place to live as a child, they thought. Craig thought of an ant farm or a crowded aquarium. It must have felt like the human version of that to live there, smashed into a small area with no quick way to get off the island. They'd heard stories before they headed for the island of kids who went years and years without ever leaving the island while they were growing up here. Bam! Cam and Craig jerked their heads around towards what sounded like a large piece of concrete falling. They retraced their steps towards the outside of the building they were in, but couldn't find the cause of the noise. Standing in an entrance to the apartment building, though, looking across the courtyard, Cam saw something. "Look!" he shouted and pointed towards an apartment on the third floor, in the window. While Craig tried to find out what he was looking at, it was gone. Damn it! What is it? I saw some woman over there looking out at us from inside that apartment. She must have just walked out of sight. We are not alone. Yes, we are, Craig told his brother. There was no boat tied off anywhere to the island when we got here, and we haven't heard anyone approach since. No, said Cam. No, she wasn't someone doing like some exploring. She looked... He paused. She looked like she lived here, but not in some crazy hermit homeless way. Like...
I'm like, just a homeless lady.
She looked like she lived here back when a lot of people lived here.
Right.
Craig laughed.
How could
If
you
that was true,
tell?
she would look like a crazy hermit, because that would mean she'd been living here alone or almost alone for at least 31 years. No, Cam snapped, annoyed. No, she looked how someone would look if it was back when a bunch of people lived here. She looked young, healthy, and I don't know. I didn't get to look at her very long. Cam trailed off as he continued to scan the area he thought he'd seen her in, hoping to find her again. Still looking in that area, half dazed, he started walking across the courtyard. Come on, let's try and find her. All right, Craig sighed. I guess this is why we're here. You think she might have been a ghost?
Oh boy.
I don't
That's
know,
creepy.
maybe. Cam's maybe felt a lot like definitely. Craig hated to admit it himself, but even though he hadn't seen anything, even though he was pretty skeptical about ghosts, he was getting a bit creeped out now and was glad it was still light out. He and Cam explored the next building for what must have been an hour, and they didn't see her, didn't see any ghosts, nor any sign of people having recently been in the area. But they did see some creepy shit, like a room with so many dolls in it. Easily 24.
Oh,
And they
I
seemed
love dolls.
staged.
Dolls have a really
Maybe set up
bad
at one
rep
point
with
into little
people. It's
scenes.
real sad. I love
But
dolls.
then time, the weather, other trespassers messed those scenes up a bit. Or, Craig hated that this thought floated up into his mind. Maybe something on the island had been playing with them.
Oh, hell no.
The brothers, before leaving the building to explore the other side of the island, grabbed dinner. By the time they were done, they had about 2 hours now until sunset. They walked past a few more apartment buildings, some too dilapidated to explore, before making it to another one that had some kind of old shop, store in the basement. The cash registers were still there. There were still some shelves, old clothes, some canned goods, a lot of chunks of concrete. The sun was setting while they were in this basement when both of them started to feel like someone or something was watching. You feel that? Cam whispered. No, Craig lied. He did feel something. What are you talking about? Something's down here. I can feel it. Something's watching us. I think we're just getting a bit twitchy because after about 30 minutes it's going to be pitch black on this island. The way those clouds are rolling in, we're not even going to have much moon or starlight tonight.
You know
Clank.
what? I'm supposed to
Both
double
brothers
it.
jumped and spun around. Sounded like a
He
can
scared
falling
me.
off a shelf. Bang! They spun the other way. A shelf had fallen down. Bam, bam, bam! They spun around again. Part of a shelf had now detached from the wall, and several items slid off of it and crashed down onto the floor. The feeling of being
Shit.
watched now intensified dramatically. They couldn't see anything, but it sure felt like something was in the room with them. Ah! What the fuck? His brother yelled, or Cam screamed. What the fuck? His brother yelled back, angry at being startled and also afraid. It suddenly dawned on him that it would be too dangerous to try and rappel down to the boat in the dark if they wanted to leave before tomorrow. They were too inexperienced to do that safely, and way too inexperienced with boats to confidently get back to the bay at night. If some freaky
Right.
paranormal shit was going down, they would have to deal with it all night, with
Exactly.
no one else around
That's
to
what
help them.
happens when you go
Did
into
see that guy?
abandoned
Cam
places.
asked. What guy?
You ain't got nobody to
Oh my
help you
God.
when you need
I swear
help.
I saw some guy about our age walk out of this basement. Some guy dressed up like a miner. Old looking hard hat on his head and everything.
There we go.
Cam looked scared. We're not alone here. But that guy, that lady from earlier, they're not people like us. I'm positive now I just saw a ghost. 2 ghosts. Craig didn't object. He didn't see this guy, but he certainly felt something. And he'd heard all that stuff suddenly start crashing and falling around out of nowhere.
That's
He
nice.
wanted to get out of the basement, anywhere but the basement, right now. Let's go. Craig started quickly walking towards the stairs that led out of the basement, the same stairs his brother had just seen the miner walk up. He didn't love it, but he loved the thought of spending the night in this basement less. He wanted to snag the last bit of sunlight as fast as he could. Cam was terrified that the ghost would walk back down the stairs at any moment and scare them both to death, but he too had no interest in being stuck all night in this basement, so he followed his
Right.
brother. Less than a minute later, they were back outside. They felt jumpy and freaked out, but currently, at least weren't seeing anything. But then, there! Cam pointed again to the same building from before. They were now just on the other side of it. And this time, Craig saw her too. Holy shit. A young woman, she looked to be around 30, average looks, plainly dressed, was staring at them from inside an apartment. She stared
Alright.
solemnly, no smile. She looked
Aw.
maybe sad, irritated, maybe it was apathy. It was hard to tell what she was feeling. Her expression is hard to describe. And then she turned, walked past the open window, and disappeared. Cam suddenly felt a lot braver than he'd felt a moment ago. I want to set up camp right where we just saw her. What?
Hell no.
No
Hell
fucking way, Cam. We're sleeping
no.
outside. No,
What
we're
the
not,
hell?
said Cam firmly. We came here to try and see some ghosts. And we did just see one. Box checked. I'm done. But what if we
Right?
experienced something even more intense? You just zipped out of the basement right behind me while there was still some daylight. You're terrified. What are you talking about? I want to see more. This might be the only night in our life to ever experience this kind of stuff. We'll be together. We can handle it. Craig was about to protest when Cam stormed off towards the apartment building. He knew his brother well enough to know he had just made up his mind. He could be pissed at him later, when they were away from this damn island. Right now,
Right.
he didn't want to be alone, so along he went.
You can
The two
come
made
back
it to
without
where they'd
me.
seen the
I'm
lady
going home.
just as it became completely dark out. Luckily, at least Craig thought it was lucky, they hadn't seen the woman again, or anyone else. They set up their electric lanterns and used the light to pitch their two-man tent and roll out their sleeping bags. And now Cam wanted to explore the building. No, Craig protested. Fuck you, Cam. Absolutely not. Being in this building is bad enough. Let's stay in the tent. If we hear something and you want to peek your head out, go for it. But at least I could bury myself in my sleeping bag until morning. Skeptic is a believer now, huh? Craig paused. Yes, I believe. Happy?
Right.
I'm also scared shitless. This is not fun.
Right.
No, Cam agreed. Not exactly. But also so cool in a way. We just saw a dead person who wasn't quite dead somehow. I saw 2 dead people. They looked at us. Proof of something happening when we die other than just being worm food. Yeah, pretty amazing, actually, agreed Craig. But since we already got that proof, I just want to try and go to sleep and wake up when it's sunny and get the hell away from this place. And then we can talk about it all. Thump, 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 thump. Oh my God, Cam said, whipping around his flashlight. That sounded like someone running down the hall. That's it, Craig exclaimed as he entered the tent. I am not coming back out until morning. Okay, I get it. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna look around a bit, and then I'll probably come screaming back down the hall, and I'll zip myself up for the night, and you can make fun of me. Be careful, Cam, said Craig in a serious tone. Cam nodded, and then turned
Craig,
to go
don't let
explore,
him
but as Craig
go,
entered the
bro.
tent, climbed into the sleeping bag, and turned off his lantern. And for the next minute or so, he listened to his brother explore.
I just can't
It had
get
been pretty
even.
quiet on the island all day. The sea was fairly calm, other than the steady crashing of small waves into the seawall, the sound of the occasional passing ship or boat, the breeze moving a bit of debris here and there, and the sounds they made exploring. It had been quiet. But now, it was extra quiet. Oddly quiet. Other than his breathing, which Craig was trying to control and keep hushed, all he could hear was Cam walking around. He could hear every step he took. He could hear him breathing. And then, all that stopped. Completely. Now he heard nothing but his own breathing. And when he held his breath, he heard absolutely nothing. Total
creeped
silence.
out.
He hated it. It was as scary as the ghost he'd seen earlier. Scarier. He thought about her now. Who was she? Why was she still here? As his mind drifted into various possibilities, maybe a tragic death had left her stuck here. Someone had wronged her, and now her spirit looked for revenge, etc. The footsteps began again, and Craig relaxed a bit. It sounded like Cam was returning to the tent. The footsteps were
That's
steadily
not
headed
Cam.
back towards him. When they got real close, though, Craig felt some panic in his chest rising up into his throat. There was no light. If that was Cam, just walking back, who was now right outside the tent, where was his flashlight? Why wasn't it on? The footsteps now stopped. Cam?
Oh my God.
What's going on?
Oh my God.
Nothing.
I'm scared, y'all.
Cam? What are you doing? Still nothing. The footsteps
That's not
picked up again.
Cam, bro.
Thump, 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 thump. Cam or someone was walking around the tent, towards where Craig was laying down. He grabbed his flashlight, flipped it on. He pointed towards the sound, but could see nothing through the tent wall. Cam, what the fuck, man? You're freaking me out. Stop messing around and get in here.
Ah.
The footsteps quickened. Thump, 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 thump. Something had walked back around to the front of the tent. And now,
Oh my God.
zzz, the zipper was being unzipped from the bottom. Dear God, he couldn't breathe. His chest felt so tight. Craig trained his flashlight on it, watched the zipper move up, and then suddenly it ripped up to the top and the flaps opened. Ah! It was the woman from before. Her head was
Oh,
in
shit.
the tent now, and there was something wrong with her eyes, too big, too dark, and her head was approaching him, but her body was not coming inside. It was like her neck was stretching out like a snake. And now she screamed too, as her face came within inches of Craig's, and then darkness. He passed out from fear.
Oh shit.
He woke with a start the next morning.
Oh, poor
He was
Craig.
still alone in the tent. Thank God it was light out. He saw the tent was still open. He hated seeing this. He knew it meant last night really happened. Where
Holy
was Cam?
shit.
Craig
Cam's
practically
dead.
jumped out of his sleeping bag and started to run down the hall, and then abruptly stopped. Cam was sitting with his back against the wall, staring straight ahead, not staring at his brother, staring off into the distance, like no
Whoa.
one was around him.
Oh
Craig
shit.
was unable to snap him out of this state. He was able to get his seemingly catatonic brother to stand up and put on his backpack and walk out of the building.
Yes,
Unbelievably, Cam was
catatonic.
even able, with a lot of help from Craig, rappel down into the boat, which thankfully hadn't gotten all beaten up in the night. They both got down into the boat. Cam said nothing the entire time, just kept staring off into the distance.
Can y'all,
He got
like,
into
hear
a
me?
harness Craig made and let his bigger brother, thank God he only weighed about 140 pounds, lower him down. He put on a life jacket with Craig's help, sat where Craig told him to sit, said nothing, never looked at Craig. But right after Craig backed the boat out, Cam suddenly turned his head to look at something else. On another seat in the boat, there sat
Oh.
a single miner's hard hat and a woman's dress. Craig flashed on the miner. His brother said he saw in the basement. He recognized the dress from the woman who terrified him. Cam started to cry. He cried the whole way
I'm about
back
to
to
cry.
the bay. Craig got him home that afternoon, and Cam slept most of the weekend. By Monday, Craig called in sick for his brother for work. Cam was able to start to talk a bit, though. By the end of the week, he was more or less himself, but he refused to talk about what happened to him in the hall that night. He's never talked about it. Craig doesn't think he ever will. Craig has no idea what any of this means, other than he and his brother were fools to go to Hashima Island alone that night, an island city of ghosts.
Oh no, his poor brother.
Fucked him up.
Yeah, that's why I tell you, we don't want to see anything.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
That's
no.
not worth it.
Not at all.
That intense of an experience, if that really happened,
Well,
would
it's
it
not
just
like-
mess you up for the rest of your life?
I don't think
You're
that you
right.
get to control what kind of experience you
Right.
get either. So it's like to put yourself. I was actually cracking up when they were fighting.
It's
I
like
was
a wild
"Oh, this is
animal.
exactly
You
the
just
fight
don't
that we
know
would
what's
have."
gonna happen.
You would be so excited to see something, and I would be like, no, 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 no. You stay right here with me,
Right, right.
and off you would go, and then I would find you rocking in a corner somewhere, and I can't lift you, so it doesn't work.
I'm surprised that Craig didn't end up just catatonic.
Right.
If he saw what he
Poor
saw
thing.
in that tent.
Ah,
Oh my god. Ghosts is
I
always
have some
invading
pictures.
people's personal
This
space.
first one, a cool aerial shot of Hashima Island.
oh my
creepy.
god,
Isn't that
Ooh,
amazing?
it's beautiful.
that is insane.
It's so surreal looking.
It is.
So beautiful.
It's almost like my brain can't process it. Like what?
Yeah, they reinforced, obviously, the edge of the island. That's why they call it Battleship Island, because the way it looks
looks
with
like a
these
battleship.
huge, very tall seawalls,
Yeah.
so that, if there was like a rising tide, it wouldn't like batter and erode the island. And then it's just, the way it's built on like this, like I said, kind of like a little mountain coming out of the sea. They just built all these big buildings around it, and I have more pictures. This next one, you can see some of the buildings a little better. Another aerial shot, but from the other side.
That's fucking wild.
This is such a weird looking place. I can't believe it's real.
Look at
and
it
so much stuff
crumbling
was
away.
left in
Oh,
this
it's so
place.
beautiful.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand it. This next picture, an old TV, desk, chair, etc., inside what was somebody's apartment.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
And it was so
oh,
crowded.
real
I
old
ended up
school.
watching some mini docs on this place because I got so into it. It was so crowded on this place that there wouldn't be room. Like multiple miners would be staying in the same tiny apartment.
Yeah.
And they would like one guy would be sleeping in the closet. One guy would have a tiny little mattress, like in the hallway. Like they just were crammed like sardines. This next picture, this is a doll found in one of the apartments on Hashima Island 3 years ago by this YouTuber, Steve
Oh.
Ronan. He was doing some exploration in
It's
this
kinda
video,
cute.
and there was all these dolls all over. This next one, some tourists in front of a courtyard and a worker apartment in the building. Just such a surreal place. Just kind of shows the scale.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was just.
God.
Looks like a
But
mall.
they had like a little place, like a little park where they could play games and stuff. They had quite a bit, but in such a confined space. And a lot of the workers, like yes, there was a ferry that could take, if you
Yeah,
needed
but-
to go, but it didn't it wasn't like a daily thing like tourists. There was
Yeah.
industrial ships coming in and out that would get the coal and bring it to be sold elsewhere. But a lot of the workers, they would just stay there and not leave the island. That's what they set all that stuff up for them. Them and their families
Right.
would just stay for months or years without ever leaving this little tiny patch of land.
Well, if it was forced labor, that would make sense.
Well, those people didn't have their families there. There was like the Japanese, and then they brought in forced laborers to do the roughest jobs. Oh yeah, those people, a lot of them died, and they were given no kind of perks or benefits. So there was like stories that would come out of some people that had they loved their childhoods there. Maybe they were poor before. Now they were in a nice little furnished apartment with cool amenities around, and a bunch of other kids to play with.
What a weird
They-
juxtaposition
This is
to
looking
those other
nice.
people.
And then there'd be another building that had the forced laborers that were they were hell on earth for them.
That's sad.
Yeah.
And you can still go visit this place now.
Yep. Now you can go visit this place. Yep.
How
There's
bizarre.
tours. They set up these little. Actually, you can go Google Maps as. If you just Google it, there's this website that they use Google Maps where you can the street view, and you can kind of virtually walk around through parts of it.
Sure.
But they've built walkways because when these people were exploring it before, they're just walking around on rubble.
Yeah.
Obviously
You
pretty
see,
dangerous.
this
Now
is
they have
why I wanted to
elevated
do
walkways that are
crafts
reinforced
while
with
I
steel,
watch them
so you
because
can
they
walk
tend
above
to get a
things
little chatty.
and have little guided tours.
But I'm
thought you
still
were gonna say
enjoying
they
it.
have
I
elevators.
love this
That's what I thought.
history, the
Okay.
actual
So many stairs.
logistics
It's
of
just
it.
'cause
Oh my
the-
god, I
the
love
rocky
it.
terrain, because that's what's weird too. It's small and not only about a third of it is flat.
But it was because they found coal there.
Lots of coal. Yep, there was a lot of coal in that area, and it was underneath the sea floor down there. So they would go like a couple thousand feet down,
Just the
and then
pressure.
and then spiral out. You know, like so you're down there in these tunnels that if it were to bust, it would just be flooded with the ocean.
Oh my god. How terrifying.
What a scary job.
Oh hell yeah.
Forced
know,
or
right?
otherwise.
Yep, exactly.
Man. Ugh,
Do you have any questions about that story, or do you
I
want
do not.
to get away from it?
Yes.
You ready?